Hi Apple lovers and welcome to another episode of the Tech Hub. This episode is a retro Apple series and we're going to take a look at the history of the Apple iPod Touch and see if it's still usable today. So let's get into it. Let's start the episode. Okay, so here it is, the Apple iPod Touch. This is the 6th generation. Now just to give you some background on this episode, this I believe is the 5th iPod episode, and in fact, if it wasn't for those other retro ones, this would be a budget buys because this is not as old. But to finish off the series of iPods, here it is. Now it's in pink. I got this for my wife. It's before she had an iPhone. However, it did enable us to iMessage and FaceTime when she was still on BlackBerry. There's links to the other iPod episodes below. And like I said, this is the last one in the iPod series. I've now got a version of each iPod released. However, if you think I am missing anything, please do let me know in the comments and please be kind. So let's look into the history of this device. So today we're taking a trip down memory lane and looking at one of Apple's most iconic devices, the iPod Touch. From its launch to its eventual discontinuation, this is the full story of the iPod Touch. The iPod Touch was first introduced on September the 5th, 2007, and it was essentially an iPhone without the phone. It had the same multi-touch interface, a sleek design and Wi-Fi capabilities for browsing the web. Apple positioned it as a media device, perfect for music, videos and apps. Now it did come out before the iPhone and I think this was them testing the waters with it. It was a game changer. At a time when most MP3 players had physical buttons and limited functionality, the iPod Touch gave users a smartphone-like experience without the carrier contract. Over the years, Apple continued to refine the iPod Touch, releasing multiple generations. So there was the second generation in 2008, a thinner design, external volume buttons and built-in speakers. The third generation in 2009 had faster processor, more RAM, but visually similar. The fourth generation in 2010, major redesign with a Retina display, front and rear cameras and FaceTime support. The fifth generation in 2012 was bigger, 4-inch display, a thinner body, lightning connector and multiple color options. Then in 2015 Apple released what will be the most significant update, the 6th generation iPod Touch, and that's the one that I have today. So, launched on July the 15th, 2015, the 6th generation iPod Touch brought much needed upgrades. It featured the A8 chip, the same processor found in the iPhone 6, making it significantly faster than its predecessor. It had an 8 megapixel rear camera, an improvement over the 5th gen's 5 megapixel sensor. It supported Apple's Metal Graphics API, improving gaming performance. And of course you had the App Store, not Apple Arcade, but you had the App Store for gamings. As for the storage options, Apple offered the 6th generation iPod Touch in 16 gig, 32 gig, 64 gig and 128 gigabytes variants. This one is the 16 gig. When it came to colours, there were 6 choices: space grey, silver, gold, pink, blue and product red. In 2019, Apple introduced the 7th generation iPod Touch, which featured the A10 Fusion chip, but beyond that, it was nearly identical to the 6th gen. Then on May the 10th, 2022, Apple announced the discontinuation of the iPod Touch, officially marking the end of the iPod lineup. After 21 years of iPod history, Apple made it clear that the iPhone had fully taken over its role. Okay, so uses in 2025. Again, it works as intended, just like the other iPods. You can sync it to your machine with your own files. However, because it is touchscreen, it has Wi-Fi, iMessage, FaceTime still work, photos still work. The Home app doesn't because they've changed the interface. iTunes Match works, Apple Music works, videos works. So actually, this is nearly a workable device. The only limitation is the OS, which is iOS 12. So that is the only limitation, so you can't get all of the apps. Personally, the limitation with this, because it is quite old, the battery really doesn't last very long, and it didn't even last that long because it's quite a small device. But anyway, it's small, it's sleek, it's still usable today, just like the other iPods in this series. Now that is the end of our Apple Pod series, and what a way to wrap it up. by looking at the last iPod, nearly the last iPod, the touch generation. I know this isn't a 7th gen, but hey, it's close enough. And that's the history of the iPod Touch. Did you ever own one? Let me know your favorite iPod or iPod Touch memory in the comments below, and please, as always, be kind. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode of the Tech Hub. And if you didn't like it, be sure to hit that dislike button twice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now be sure to follow me on the socials, so Instagram and Threads at TechHubWiltsUK, and check out my website at www.techhubwiltsuk.co.uk, and I'll see you on the next episode.